There are two guys chatting. One is super excited because he's about to awaken and thinks he'll get an amazing skill. The other suggests that the first guy could use a skill to boost his intellect. The first guy tells the other to stay quiet. There's this boy named Sangwoo from Gyeongguk University, and he's standing nearby feeling really tired. All he wants at the moment is to go home. Feeling a bit worn out, Jeong expresses a wish. He wishes he had two bodies. Then an A-class hunter named Park Wontae grabs the microphone and calls for everyone's attention. He greets everyone, introducing himself as Park Wontae, the one in charge of the 10th Portal Awakening program. This program is run by the government to help people awaken their skills. They use portals to force the awakening of those who have been exposed to mana. It's like a program to help people unlock their special abilities. Wontae expresses a hope that the citizens will safely finish their awakening. He suggests they start right away, instructing the first group to come forward. The designated group steps up. Meanwhile, Sangwoo wonders if it's almost his turn in the awakening process. A lady approaches Sangwoo and inquires if he is from Group 37, Number 7, Mr. Jeon Sangwoo. Sangwoo confirms that it's him. The lady apologizes and mentions that she needs to verify Sangwoo's identity. Once the identity check is completed, she asks Sangwoo to hand over all his gadgets and proceed to enter the portal in front of him. Sangwoo takes a step forward and enters the portal. As he jumps inside, his user identification process begins, eventually completing successfully. Sangwoo is granted system usage authority, and his registration for the Awakening program also reaches completion. Sangwoo rubs his head and wonders if he fainted. It feels like his head is going to split open. As he looks around, he questions if he's in the bunker. Observing others, he notices that he's not the only one feeling unwell. Sangwoo spots a girl who has just acquired an amazing ability. Representatives from different guilds, holding their cards, eagerly approach her, trying to persuade her to join their respective guilds. Sangwoo feels envious of her newfound power. A man approaches Sangwoo and congratulates him on awakening. He inquires if Sangwoo is feeling alright. Sangwoo admits that he isn't. The man reassures Sangwoo that he will start feeling better soon and asks if Sangwoo has checked his skill. Sangwoo responds that he will now. At that moment, Sangwoo's stats window appears right in front of him. Sangwoo is really surprised when he realizes that his stats window appears just by thinking about it. He decides to check his reflex, health, and endurance stats, and to his dismay, he finds them seriously lacking. However, Sangwoo says the skill itself is important. When he takes a look at his skill, he's puzzled to see cloning written there. Sangwoo wonders, since there aren't any conditions for using the skill, whether he can use it for his everyday tasks. The man who congratulated Sangwoo earlier checks in and asks if Sangwoo has finished verifying his status window. Sangwoo confirms and admits that it doesn't look too good. The man encourages Sangwoo not to feel down unless he's a rookie. He reassures Sangwoo that most people start with similar stats. The man then asks Sangwoo about his skill. Sangwoo responds that it's cloning. The man starts to feel a bit nervous and goes, "Ah, cloning." Sangwoo, feeling puzzled, asks if it's really that bad. The man explains that there was someone who got illusion cloning, but since the illusion couldn't actually do anything physical, it wasn't considered good. However, Sangwoo points out that his isn't an illusion. The man reassures him, saying it's better to have a skill than to awaken without any. He suggests that if Sangwoo demonstrates his skill to the officials over there, they will be able to accurately judge its effectiveness. Sangwoo glances over at the officials, where he sees another person showcasing his skill to them, and the officials are in the process of evaluating it. Feeling a bit pressured, Sangwoo says it's alright and asks where the exit is. The man responds by asking Sangwoo if he sees the exploring troop. He explains to Sangwoo that he needs to complete the scanning and registration process before being allowed to go back through the portal. The officials call out for the next person, and to his surprise, it's him. Feeling a bit confused, Sangwoo approaches them. One of the officials warmly welcome him and inquire if his skill is cloning. Sangwoo affirms, saying yes, that's correct. The official then informs Sangwoo that there's a 73% chance of having one or more skills, and then the confirmation completes. The official declares the registration for the cloning skill as complete. The official tells Sangwoo that the registration form for his awakening has been sent to his identification bracelet. After this, the official calls for the next person to come forward. Sangwoo decides to take a bus to go back, and he says it was quicker than he anticipated. During the ride, Sangwoo glances at his bracelet, pondering what kind of skill cloning is. Once he arrives home, he greets his computer screens with the words, "My babies, have you been working well?" He settles down in front of the screens but soon expresses disappointment, calling it all trash. Tired, he lays down on his bed, deciding to forget about it for the time being. Sangwoo starts thinking that these days, the game he's been playing is losing its popularity. He wonders if it's time to switch to a new game. With tuition and monthly rent to pay, he realizes he should look for a part-time job. If only someone could work in his place. Sangwoo sits up suddenly, recalling the idea of the clone. He glances at his bracelet and declares that he's going to check it out. Rising from his seat, he focuses intently, attempting to summon the clone. A bluish light emits from him, leaving him a bit confused. And just like that, his look-alike appears right in front of him. Sangwoo feels really puzzled. He examines the body and figures out that it's a real physical body, not just some illusion. To test things out, Sangwoo instructs the body to put on some clothes, and it complies. Curious, Sangwoo asks his clone if he only needs to give orders. The clone confirms with a yes. Sangwoo wonders if he has to say the commands out loud. To test it, he silently thinks about making the clone sit, and to his surprise, the clone sits down. Sangwoo then wonders if he can silently command the clone to stand up, and indeed, the clone stands up. Experimenting further, Sangwoo thinks of the command repeat, and each time, the clone follows his thoughts. After a while, the clone starts to get tired, and Sangwoo notices it taking deep breaths. It dawns on him that the clone's stamina appears to be identical to his own. Sangwoo's phone, tucked in his pocket, vibrates. Wondering if it's Jaeyondo, he checks the message. Jaeyondo is inquiring about the skill Sangwoo obtained and excitedly shares that he got a hunter's skill, thinking it's awesome. He wishes Sangwoo good luck. In response, Sangwoo replies, admitting he doesn't know. Jaeyondo, teasingly, asks if Sangwoo got something useless. Sangwoo confirms with a yes. Jaeyondo mocks Sangwoo, congratulating him. He then asks if Sangwoo obtained some kind of skill related to lying down since Sangwoo always stays indoors. Jaeyondo concludes that perhaps no skill can assist Sangwoo. Jaeyondo suggests that Sangwoo should have been more active, like his boss, to improve his image and potentially acquire a better skill. Sangwoo gets irritated and takes note that Jaeyondo is quite chatty. Sangwoo then receives a notification about his stamina increasing by 0.01, leaving him confused. The topic shifts to jumper George Lucas, who is known for having the blink skill and holds the prestigious title of an S-class ranker in America. He is also associated with the Enlightened group and holds the distinction of being the first person to successfully complete the challenging Odin's Tower dungeon, an accomplishment that eluded others. Meanwhile, within Enlighten's main building, George Lucas's secretary informs him that the current analysis suggests that 80% of the entire population, totaling 300 million people, has awakened. George inquires, is that so? And then wonders how long it will take to reach 100%. The secretary, after examining data on the number of participants in the Awakening program each year, estimates that it will be completed in 5 years. George reflects, 5 years, huh? That won't be long. Meanwhile, Sangwoo's clone is putting in a lot of effort, running energetically. Two onlookers discuss the man who's running again today. Noticing his daily presence, they express concern about the possibility of him passing out in those clothes while running so vigorously. The clone takes a moment to sit and catch a breath. A boy approaches the clone and offers a bottle of water. The boy comments to the clone, "You're working out so hard. You should drink this before you start running again." However, the clone doesn't respond and resumes running. The boy is left stunned, watching the clone run away. Back at home, Sangwoo checks his weight, finding it to be 78.4. Since he was feeling a bit hungry, he ate twice as much food as usual and still lost 20 pounds this month. Sangwoo hasn't actively done anything, yet his body is getting fitter each day, and he even seems to have grown a bit taller. His stamina, endurance, and reflex have increased by 0.01. Sangwoo realizes that it's true what they say. The skill that emerges is often connected to the person's desires. While using the clones, Sangwoo discovered a few important things. First, any pain or exhaustion the clone experiences won't affect Sangwoo. Second, if the clone gets damaged or uses too much energy, those issues simply disappear. Third, whenever Sangwoo's body undergoes a change, the clones immediately mimic his exact appearance. Fourth, even if Sangwoo is far away, he can give orders to the clone just by thinking about it in his head. However, fifth, the clone cannot use the cloning skill itself. Sangwoo reasons that if the clone could use cloning, there could be an infinite number of clones, which he believes is not possible. Meanwhile, Sangwoo sits at his computer, browsing through the Hunter Wiki. Sangwoo never imagined that there would come a day when he'd be browsing through the Hunter Wiki. Wondering about stats, he learns that a stat of 1 is the limit for an unawakened grown man. There are normal stats and special stats, but most awakened individuals only have a portion of the normal stats chosen and unlocked. Special stats like regeneration, resistance, vitality, and mentality exist, but the method to unlock these kinds of special stats is mostly unknown, with only a few exceptions. Basic training makes it challenging to increase even 0.01 of stats each day. Sangwoo decides to check his own stats window. Sangwoo believes that because the clone trains continuously without any breaks and fulfills every given order to the best of its ability, it always keeps moving until it reaches its limit. This is why Sangwoo could increase his stats so rapidly. Curious, Sangwoo wonders if he could have had a total increment of 78 stat points if he had moved along with his clone and trained together. While contemplating this, Sangwoo grabs a flyer to read, and it turns out to be about Tough Body Gym. Looking at the monitor screen in front of him, he declares that he will be the head, and they will act as the limbs. Checking his bank balance, Sangwoo realizes there's nothing left to pay for the registration. Reflecting on it, he acknowledges spending a lot on food. Considering his situation, he thinks about getting a part-time job. Sangwoo starts typing on his keyboard, deciding that he needs to find construction labor. This would not only help him train his body, but also earn some money simultaneously. Realizing that he'll have to do it himself for the first few times, Sangwoo considers that the clone can't follow a process if he gives an order that he himself hasn't experienced at least once. While searching for job opportunities, Sangwoo stumbles upon a delivery/drop-off type work and thinks, "Isn't this perfect?" He decides to take action and dials the number, and mentions that he saw the announcement on their hiring site. The person on the line asks Sangwoo if he's referring to the delivery-type job. Since there's no interview, Sangwoo just needs to start coming to work. The person then inquires about when Sangwoo can begin. Sangwoo shares his plan to start tomorrow. The person wonders if Sangwoo is available today, and he replies that it's possible. They instruct him to come to the logistics center by 6:30. Sangwoo agrees, saying he will see them then. After ending the call, Sangwoo wonders if there's no one else working there. Feeling a bit exasperated, he sighs and decides to forget about it for now. Sangwoo figures it's good as long as he gets paid right away. Arriving at the location, he expresses uncertainty, saying he thinks it's here. Sangwoo's clone, named Number 1, is also present. Sangwoo contemplates whether he can say they are twins, but worries it might lead to complications. Advising his clone to answer well and go by the name Gyeondo while at work, Sangwoo's clone agrees. Sangwoo then realizes that the building is larger than he expected and wonders where he needs to go. A man approaches and asks if Sangwoo is indeed Sangwoo. Surprised, the man questions why Sangwoo is there. The person turns out to be Mr. Deokchil. Deokchil mentions that he didn't recognize Sangwoo at first and asks if Sangwoo lost a lot of weight. Sangwoo appreciates the comment and explains that he came with his friend for a part-time job. Deokchil responds, asking if that's the case, and directs Sangwoo to go in a certain direction towards an office. Sangwoo, finding it coincidental, expresses his thanks to Deokchil. Deokchil shares that he was surprised as well and mentions they'll see each other later. Feeling nervous, Sangwoo tightens his face. He asks his clone if he's not nervous, to which the clone responds with a no. Sangwoo proudly raises his bracelet, declaring that he too is now an awakener. Looking at his clone, Sangwoo suggests finishing the job quickly and then going home to enjoy some ramen. Sangwoo puts in a lot of effort, but he struggles to lift the carton. Feeling frustrated, he realizes he was too arrogant and thinks there's no end to this. Looking around, he sees other delivery guys effortlessly handling their tasks. Sangwoo wonders if those people have some kind of skill for moving heavy things. Observing his clone working efficiently, Sangwoo starts to regret coming here. His clone seems to be managing well on his own. During a 1-hour break, Sangwoo sits down, feeling tired. Deokchil offers him a drink and suggests they should drink something after sweating so much. He even brings some food, to which Sangwoo reacts with gratitude. Deokchil then acknowledges the hard work of the young man who was diligently working without talking. Curious, he asks for his name, and the clone responds that he is Kim Gyeondo. Deokchil comments that his name is manly too. Then he asks Sangwoo if he's okay, mentioning it seems like Sangwoo's first time doing this kind of work. Sangwoo admits that it is tiring. Deokchil, acknowledging their shared perseverance, mentions that most people tend to quit around this time, but Sangwoo and his clone have the determination. Sangwoo privately thinks that if it weren't for the balance in his account, he might have also quit by now. Deokshil asks Sangwoo which university he attended. Sangwoo reveals that he goes to Gyeongguk University. Deokshil praises the choice, saying it's a great university and assumes Sangwoo must have studied well. However, Sangwoo denies this, stating that it's not such a great university. Deokshil advises Sangwoo not to be modest about attending a good university. He shares that he wouldn't wish for anything else if his daughter could get into the same university. In response, Sangwoo tells Deokshil not to worry. Deokshil reveals that he wasn't good at studying, yet he managed to get into Gyeongguk University. Deokshil asks Sangwoo how he got in if he wasn't good at studying. Sangwoo explains that he obtained some licenses and utilized a special admission process. Excitedly, Deokshil exclaims, "Special admission." That's right, that's possible. Seizing the moment, Deokshil then asks Sangwoo if he might be interested in another part-time job. Sangwoo inquires about the nature of the other part-time job. Deokshil suggests that instead of exhausting himself at the current job, Sangwoo could tutor Deokshil's daughter if he's willing. This suggestion confuses Sangwoo, him, a tutor? He contemplates his bank balance, then questions whether he is supposed to teach all subjects to Deokshil's daughter. Deokshil confirms that Sangwoo would indeed be teaching all subjects, expressing a bit of embarrassment about his daughter's struggles in studying. Sangwoo asks how much he would be paid. Deokshil proposes 50,000 won each time for a duration of 2 hours, occurring 1 to 2 times a week. Sangwoo begins calculating in his mind, considering the rate of 50,000 won for every 2 hours. It doesn't seem like a bad deal if he only considers the time spent. So Sangwoo shakes hands with Deokshil, agreeing to the tutoring opportunity. Deokshil expresses gratitude, mentioning that after work, he'll discuss the matter with his daughter and get in touch with Sangwoo. Before parting, Deokshil asks Sangwoo if he still uses his old phone number, and Sangwoo confirms that he does. Afterward, Sangwoo stands and stretches, thinking about the tutoring job. He hopes everything goes well. Taking a moment to check his stats window, Sangwoo is pleased to see that he not only secured a job, but also has good stats. However, he receives another parcel to lift. Sangwoo mentions he has another task to complete, but before that he will eat. He checks the bag and notices there is no food left. Curiously, he looks at his clone only to realize that the clone is eating all the food. Sangwoo's patience reaches its limit, and he scolds the clone for consuming all the food. The next morning, Sangwoo experiences strong cramps. Feeling the discomfort, he sits up and makes a decision. He's going to assign the time-consuming job to number 1 from now on. Checking his stats, Sangwoo acknowledges that number 1 seems to be putting in a lot of effort. In his mind, Sangwoo instructs his clone to return home, with the intention of making the clone vanish temporarily and then summoning him back, because the clothes will be left behind in clone's current location if it vanishes there. Sangwoo prioritizes his hunger and opts to have a meal first. After satisfying his appetite, he becomes full, and at that moment, notices his clone entering through the door. The clone announces his return. Sangwoo directs his clone to freshen up and change clothes. The clone follows Sangwoo's instructions and returns. Sangwoo then requests the clone to extend its hand. Holding a needle, Sangwoo feels anxious about using it on the clone. However, he reminds himself that number 1 is just a clone, and if dismissed, it dissipates into light. It's not a real human or a living being. Summoning courage, Sangwoo decides to prick the clone's finger with the needle. Blood appears, but the clone maintains a stoic expression. Apologizing to the clone, Sangwoo asks if it hurt. The clone endured well. Sangwoo proceeds to wipe off the blood and wonders when he will acquire the regeneration stat. Sangwoo has studied from the Hunter Wiki website about how this ability is unlocked. Sangwoo is curious if there will be any noticeable change if he continues this practice for a month or more. However, he finds the idea of making the wound larger frightening, so he decides to stick to doing it frequently for now. Instructing his clone, Sangwoo advises him to eat ramen whenever he feels hungry and engage in regular workouts. The clone agrees. Sangwoo then hands his spare mobile phone, the one he uses for playing video games, to the clone. He instructs the clone to take the phone with him to work and to answer calls attentively. Announcing his departure, Sangwoo, holding a pamphlet, questions whether he is heading in the right direction to the gym. Someone grabs Sangwoo by the neck over his shoulders. It turns out to be Kim Gyeongdo. Sangwoo notices Gyeongdo and requests him to remove his hand from Sangwoo's shoulders, mentioning that it's hot. Gyeongdo expresses uncertainty about recognizing Sangwoo due to Sangwoo's slim appearance. Noticing the weight loss, Jaehondo comments, asking if Sangwoo has lost a lot of weight. Sangwoo responds by sharing that he's been working out lately and mentions that he is on his way to the gym at that very moment. Jaehondo expresses surprise, asking if Sangwoo is serious about working out. Sangwoo confirms and even remarks that Jaehondo should consider working out too. Sangwoo, noticing Jaehondo's physique, points out that there seems to be a lot of fat on Jaehondo's body. Jaehondo says it's all muscles and inquires about the gym's name. Sangwoo informs him that there's a gym called the Tough Body Gym nearby. Jaehondo recognizes it and acknowledges its reputation. Sangwoo responds by asking if it's truly that good. He adds that, in his opinion, the only notable thing about the gym is its pricing. Jaehondo mentions that the trainer at the gym is really attractive. Sangwoo asks if that's what Jaehondo was referring to. Jaehondo then requests Sangwoo to wait for him. Sangwoo questions this, noting that Jaehondo isn't planning to exercise. Upon arriving at the gym, they observe people actively working out. Sangwoo is impressed, thinking it looks quite good. A trainer approaches them, apologizing for the lunch break interruption. He warmly welcomes them and inquires if it's their first time at the gym. Sangwoo confirms and expresses interest in registering. The trainer informs them about a lunch sale, proposing a 3-month registration for only 160K. He seeks Sangwoo's opinion on this offer. Sangwoo decides to register for 3 months at once and asks the trainer if he can check Sangwoo's postures on each of the machines. However, in his mind, Sangwoo is thinking that the clone will be the one doing all the exercises. The trainer agrees to help Sangwoo with the payment and asks for his card. Sangwoo hands over his card. Inside the gym, Sangwoo attempts to lift some weights. The trainer observes and compliments Sangwoo's good posture, specifically noting that it's an incline bench press, advising him to perform it with strength. Meanwhile, Jaehondo lifts a considerable amount of weight, drawing the attention of everyone in the gym. The trainer expresses admiration, remarking that it seems like Jaehondo has been working out for a long time. Jaehondo responds that it's actually his first time at the gym. The trainer then inquires whether Jaehondo's strength has increased, possibly due to awakening. Curious about Jaehondo's strength stat, the trainer asks how high it is. Jaehondo chuckles and casually mentions that it's not much, around 2.1. Impressed, the trainer acknowledges the value of strength for lifting heavy objects but admits that he personally focuses more on stamina. He expresses envy towards Jaehondo's strength. Sangwoo, reflecting on what Jaehondo mentioned about acquiring a hunter skill, speculates that it might be related to the strength stat. However, this makes Sangwoo ponder the potency of other high-profile hunters' abilities. He realizes that there must be a significant reason why people talk about hunters despite the dangers involved. Sangwoo receives a phone call from Deoksul. Upon answering, Deoksul inquires if Sangwoo arrived home safely the previous day. Deoksul mentions that he discussed the tutoring matter with his wife and daughter, and now he's wondering if Sangwoo has some time to spare. Sangwoo asks if it's right now, and Deoksul confirms, expressing a desire to talk face-to-face at his house. Sangwoo, agreeing to the meeting, says he'll try to get there as soon as possible. He then heads to Deoksul's home. While standing outside, Sangwoo reflects on Jaehondo's decision not to register despite all that. Jaehondo's reasoning was that Sangwoo might find it challenging to focus on exercising while being envious of Jaehondo's progress. Sangwoo recalls saying that Jaehondo is only doing this because the gym lacks the attractive trainer others spoke about. Jaehondo starts feeling anxious. Sangwoo thinks it's actually better this way because now he doesn't have to worry about sending the clone to the gym. Sangwoo wonders if he's at the right house. As he listens closely, he realizes there's some commotion inside. Inside the house, Deoksul's daughter is having an argument with him, questioning why he made decisions without consulting her. The daughter expresses frustration, mentioning that Deoksul told her the teacher would be coming, and now she asks him to call Sangwoo and tell him not to come. Deoksul, preparing to leave for work, opens the door and states that if his daughter doesn't like it, she should inform Sangwoo herself. As the door swings open, it hits Sangwoo, who was eavesdropping on their conversation. Sangwoo gets thrown back into the wall, leaving the daughter standing there in confusion. Sangwoo sits there feeling puzzled. Deoksul apologizes to Sangwoo, explaining that he didn't notice him there. Sangwoo reassures Deoksul, saying it's okay. Deoksul's wife brings an apple for Sangwoo and asks if he is indeed student Sangwoo. She remarks that she couldn't recognize him at all and notes that he has lost a significant amount of weight. Sangwoo shares that he has been working out recently and mentions that it's been a while since he last saw Deoksul's wife. He then turns to Deoksul's daughter, asking her to show him her grades. She complies, and as Sangwoo checks the grades, he is taken aback. Deoksul's daughter feels embarrassed due to how poor her grades are. She sits there with her gaze down, and Sangwoo reassures her that it's okay. Sangwoo shares that he didn't get a good score on this SAT either, and adds that he has a lot of tips for studying. Deoksul's daughter, curious, asks if Sangwoo really has tips. Sangwoo confidently responds, saying, "Of course, let's do our best." The daughter agrees, and Sangwoo suggests starting the tutoring today, twice a week. Later, as Sangwoo leaves their house, he reflects that they still have a long way to go. However, he finds it fortunate that the kid is brighter than he expected. Returning home, Sangwoo notes that no one must have gone to work. Right now, Sangwoo has given his clone a spare phone, but he worries that if he creates more clones in the future, acquiring multiple phones might become challenging. Sangwoo browses the Hunter web. He considers searching for skills related to his own abilities. As he explores various skills, he comes across one that is strongly recommended, the familiar skill. However, when he sees the price tag of 100 million won, he is shocked. Sangwoo checks another skill called the Selling Telepathy Skill Scroll, which is priced at 400 million won. Sangwoo expresses his disbelief, mentioning that if he had that kind of money, he would rather invest in buying a house than spending it on a skill. Feeling overwhelmed, Sangwoo leans back in his chair and reflects that it will take an eternity to afford just one of these skills. Sangwoo is curious if hunters make enough money to afford these expensive skills. Checking his bank balance, he finds it's 233,200 won. Disheartened, Sangwoo lies down on his bed, expressing frustration. Contemplating his options, he wonders if becoming a hunter is a good idea. To gather more information, Sangwoo reads several articles about hunters who seem to accumulate significant wealth. Sitting up, he realizes that being a hunter might be a fantastic skill, and he can't just waste his cloning on ordinary jobs. Motivated, he puts on his jacket, determined to give hunting a try. Soon after, he receives a notification that his vitality is unlocked. Hunter. What's a hunter? The explanation follows, stating that in the year 2000, portals appeared all over the earth, unleashing monsters. Due to a big problem we call the Great Disaster, more than half of the people in the world died, and it seemed like humanity was almost over. But right when the disaster began, some people with special powers called superhumans appeared. With them leading the fight, humanity somehow managed to win against the monsters that came with the disaster. Now in the year 223, there are individuals who go after the remaining monsters. They are known as hunters. Sangwoo is watching a video that explains all of this. The person in the video mentions that if you pass a specific test, you'll get a license recognized by the whole country, allowing you to legally hunt and kill monsters. The video also shares some tips on how to pass the hunter test. Sangwoo heads to the hunter center. The building is really big. Sangwoo mentions that regardless, he's not sure if it's because of the vitality he recently unlocked, but he feels much better after just a few hours of sleep. Sangwoo looks around and observes hunters working on things or getting their weapons ready. Noticing the surroundings, Sangwoo comments that it doesn't seem like there are many people taking the test. A lady announces that the registration for the hunter license test, which is happening on basement floor 1, will close in 20 minutes. Sangwoo says, "In the basement?" Feeling nervous, he makes his way to the hunter's license test room. Upon arriving, he enters the room, saying, "Excuse me." Inside, many people are taking the exam. Sangwoo starts feeling even more nervous, wondering why there are so many people. When he enters, people mock him for saying, "Excuse me," and question who this idiot is. A hunter comes into the hall and greets everyone. He introduces himself as Han Myeon-won, a C-class hunter, and informs them that he will be the one overseeing this licensing test. Han explains that the test consists of a written part, a practical part, and an aptitude section. He sternly warns that anyone caught cheating will be immediately disqualified, and they won't be able to take the exam for the rest of the year. Han emphasizes that they never forgive cheaters, putting pressure on everyone. Feeling the intensity of the situation, Sangwoo realizes how pressurized the atmosphere is. Han announces that they will now begin the hunter license test. A CEO is driving his car and is on a call. He mentions that they'll deposit all the money before the end of the month and asks his boss to wait for a bit. He explains that he's been working in this field for a long time, not just a few days. However, his boss continues to scold him during a call. CEO Kang from JM Agency complains that his boss is making things difficult for him. Kang shares that money isn't coming in, but there are many places where the money has to go. Checking the time on his watch, Kang notes that it's around the time when the hunter exam is supposed to end. Meanwhile, Sangwoo receives congratulations through his bracelet for passing the exam, and he is now officially an F-class hunter. Sangwoo expresses surprise, saying, "What? Is that it?" People had mentioned it's easy, so he was curious about just how easy it could be. To him, it felt like getting a driver's license. The written exam had easy questions, and Sangwoo only needed to memorize a few things. There was plenty of time to practice for the practical test, and the target was really close. The aptitude test was similar to a moral test in grade school. Thinking to himself, Sangwoo reflects that this job involves risking one's own life and using weapons. He wonders if it's really okay for it to be this way. As he looks back at the center, Sangwoo considers that the government might want them to do this. Trying to reassure himself, he thinks, let's not overthink about this. Sangwoo observes people getting cards and wonders if those card givers are from guilds trying to recruit hunters. A man congratulates Sangwoo for passing the hunter license exam and hands him a card from JM Agency. Introducing himself as Kang Junmo, the man explains that whenever Sangwoo buys something or looks for a monster to hunt, if he contacts Kang, they'll provide the best service for a small fee. Expressing gratitude, Sangwoo thanks Kang Junmo. Just as Sangwoo receives a notification on his screen that his cloning skill level has increased, Kang insists that his agency is the best. However, Sangwoo decides to run away, saying he will contact Kang some other time. Kang agrees and asks Sangwoo to remember to contact him. When Sangwoo arrives home, he lets out a sigh and expresses that cloning is the best. Summoning another clone, he expresses excitement about number 2's work. Sangwoo confidently declares that they are all set to become hunters. Kang, sitting back in his car, tosses away his cards, satisfied that he has distributed most of them. He hopes that hunters will reach out to him. Gazing out of his car window, Kang finds himself at Korea's number 1, Haseong Guild official building. A man informs Kang that he just needs to settle the amount according to what's written on the list there. Kang responds with an affirmative okay. He proceeds to inspect the list and becomes perplexed by what he finds. Kang Junmo expresses his confusion, noting that the specified amount appears unusual. He adds that, according to his understanding, the price of troll blood should be at least 5 million. However, the man questions Junmo about the duration since he joined Haseong. Kang acknowledges that it has indeed been a while since he joined. The man then advises Kang to be sharp-witted and emphasizes that if they strictly adhere to all the rules and carry out their duties diligently, there may not be much left for them. The man states that they should not be overly sensitive about their guild business, despite knowing that Mr. Junmo is principled. He suggests a more flexible approach. Kang Junmo becomes upset by this. Seated in his car, Kang reflects on the challenging situation, thinking that if he had known it would be this difficult, he would have refrained from speaking up. Kang's phone rings and he promptly answers, identifying himself as Kang Junmo from JM Agency. The caller, Sangwoo, mentions that he received Kang's business card some time ago and expresses a desire to inquire about something. At the coffee shop, Kang arrives to find Sangwoo already there. Kang apologizes for the wait. Sangwoo reassures Kang, saying it's no problem as he has just arrived. Kang proposes ordering drinks and Sangwoo agrees. Once their coffees are served, Kang inquires about Sangwoo's preference for a hunting ground suitable for even a beginner. Confirming this, Sangwoo acknowledges his interest. Seeking more information, Kang politely asks Sangwoo about his skill set. Sangwoo discloses that his skill is cloning. As Kang thinks about cloning, he recalls hearing about it in the past and wonders if it's the skill that creates illusions incapable of any physical actions. Kang reflects that for a newcomer with illusions that lack physical capabilities, there might be limitations during hunting activities. Regardless, Kang appreciates the skill and proceeds to hand over a contract to Sangwoo, asking him to go through it. Kang suggests the slime hunting ground as the initial recommendation. He describes it as a relatively safe option for beginners since slimes are not overly aggressive. However, Kang points out a drawback. When the slimes perish, they release liquids and poisonous gas. To navigate this, hunters need masks and protective clothing, which can be challenging to wear. Consequently, the downside is that hunting sessions can't be extended for an extended period due to these requirements. Sangwoo captures an image of the contract and reassures Kang that it won't pose any issues for him. Kang proceeds to introduce the second option, horned rabbit hunting. Although this location allows for extended hunting periods, Kang notes that the earnings may not be substantial because horned rabbits are challenging to capture. However, there is a safety barrier ensuring Sangwoo's security during hunts. Kang mentions the presence of other low-class monsters like giant rats, but he emphasizes that horn rabbit and slime hunting grounds are the only ones where he can confidently guarantee Sangwoo's safety. Sangwoo expresses his enthusiasm, describing both locations as really good. He appreciates the favorable rates at which he can sell his items and expresses his intention to move forward with the contract. Jang extends gratitude to Sangwoo for his decision. Kang seeks clarification, asking Sangwoo if he could choose one of the hunting grounds. Sangwoo declines, and at that moment, the real Sangwoo appears and officially endorses the contract with his signature. He clarifies that when he mentioned liking both places, it indicated his desire to participate in hunts at both locations. Kang finds himself in a state of confusion when Sangwoo expresses a desire to hunt in both places simultaneously. This brings to Kang's mind a previous encounter with someone who possessed the skill of cloning. Kang had asked the person to demonstrate the skill, and the person readily summoned multiple clones. To Kang's surprise, all the clones attacked their creator, causing Kang to become frightened. Urging the person to calm down, Kang was assured that the clones were mere illusions, incapable of physical contact or harm. The person explained that despite their inability to touch or harm anyone, the clones were highly effective for attracting monsters. Kang, having witnessed this skill, sighs, thinking that he has now seen all kinds of abilities. However, the clone technique he observed earlier was undoubtedly an illusionary skill. Nevertheless, Kang is now confused as this clone not only accepted the contract Kang presented, but also shared a drink with him. Kang is amazed because he has never seen a skill like Sangwoo's before. Kang asks Sangwoo if they are perhaps twins. Sangwoo laughs and acknowledges that it's not an unreasonable assumption. He places his hand on his clone's shoulder, revealing that this guy is indeed his clone. Sangwoo is aware that Kang might be confusing his skill with some other, but he emphasizes that this clone is real. Sangwoo then shares that there's another clone, but it's currently at the gym. Kang is surprised and questions whether the clone can also grow muscles. Sangwoo confirms this, explaining that if his clone becomes stronger, he also gains strength. Kang is impressed and realizes that the clone can also enhance stats. He finds it amazing and thinks that Sangwoo, with such a unique skill, has great potential, not typical for a simple F-rank hunter. Sangwoo brings up the topic of returning to the hunting grounds, expressing that he has a question. Kang encourages him to go ahead. Sangwoo, admitting he hasn't been to the hunting grounds, wonders if it's permissible for the same person to enter different places simultaneously. Kang explains that entering at the exact same time can be challenging because entries are recorded. This concern troubles Sangwoo. However, Kang offers a solution, suggesting that he will discuss the matter with the Hunter Association to make necessary adjustments. Kang mentions the possibility of scanning Sangwoo's bracelet and requiring a demonstration of his skill. He invites Sangwoo to come along for this process. Sangwoo agrees but mentions that he can only use his skill again tomorrow evening. Because there's a cooldown for using the skill, Sangwoo explains, then let's meet at the Hunter Center in 2 days. Kang then inquires about the contract, and Sangwoo reassures him that he has already signed it. Kang stands up, expressing his anticipation for their collaboration. Sangwoo shakes hands with Kang, reciprocating the sentiment. 2 days later, Sangwoo arrives at the Hunter Center and looks around. Kang greets him, remarking that he's quite early. Sangwoo shares that he came early just in case Kang was already waiting. He notices the Hunter Association inside the Hunter Center. Kang explains that most hunter-related facilities are located there, and they should head inside. As they proceed, an announcement is made about specific hunters assigned to counter different threats, mentioning Hunter 164 for A3, Hunter 165 for B1, and Hunter 166 for E4, among others. The person at the counter asks Sangwoo if he wants to have double access to the hunting grounds. Sangwoo replies affirmatively, explaining that his skill involves creating clones, but he only has one identity bracelet. The person requests Sangwoo to wait for a moment, mentioning that he is the first person to request duplicate access since Jumper. The person consults his chief about the application documents for duplicate access. Sangwoo observes that this doesn't seem to be a common request. The chief directs the person to a pile of files, and after a short time, the person hands Sangwoo the application form for permission. He informs Sangwoo that the necessary documents can be processed by visiting the civil service office, and Sangwoo can undergo competency screening in the skill demonstration room. Sangwoo realizes there's a lot to handle. Kang reassures him, saying he'll handle the paperwork, and Sangwoo can proceed to the skill demonstration room. Sangwoo expresses gratitude and Kang begins working on the documents. Meanwhile, Sangwoo enters the demonstration room, where he summons his clones, surprising the judges. In response, a man creates new bracelets for the clones, announcing that the application for permission regarding the identity bracelets has been completed. He explains that the clones can access the hunting grounds by scanning their fingerprints. Considering the unique nature of the clone technique, the man adds that simultaneous entry and exit to different locations is possible, and the clones can re-enter places they have been to before. Sangwoo expresses gratitude to the man, who, in turn, acknowledges Sangwoo's truly unique skill. The man mentions that, to his knowledge, this skill is unprecedented not only in Korea, but also abroad. Sangwoo, accompanied by his clone, nervously laughs and says they will take their leave. Feeling a sense of regret, the man sighs. Sangwoo then approaches Kang, informing him that the application for permission is completed. Kang congratulates Sangwoo, and Sangwoo shares with his number 2 clone that the hunting preparations are finally over. Kang inquires if Sangwoo plans to go to the hunting ground right away. Sangwoo affirms, stating that he has no other plans for the day. However, Kang notices Sangwoo having his clone masked and questions the reason. Sangwoo explains that many people are interested, prompting Kang's understanding. From a distance, Haesong Guild Master Shin Yisong observes them and expresses curiosity about their identity, but realizes that it's their Junmo. Shin shouts out for Kang Junmo. Kang turns his gaze in that direction. From a higher floor, Shin swiftly descends to the ground, and mentions that it has been a considerable amount of time since their last encounter in such a location. Shin acknowledges the reunion. Sangwoo observes the situation. Shin, expressing surprise, comments on his lack of knowledge regarding Kang's continued involvement in the hunter business. Sangwoo recognizes the person before him as Shin Haesong, the guild master of Haesong. Sangwoo gazes upward, pondering from which floor Shin descended. Kang, maintaining a stoic expression, greets with a simple "Hello, President." Amused, Shin bursts into laughter and questions the use of the term president, asserting that there is no need for formal greetings between them. Shin turns his gaze towards Sangwoo and inquires about his identity, asking Kang, "Who's this guy?" Kang responds, mentioning that Sangwoo is a hunter affiliated with Kang's company. Upon hearing this, Shin reacts with an understanding "Ah, hunter," and queries Kang whether Sangwoo happens to be an F-rank hunter. Reflecting on the challenges faced when one ventures out of their home, Shin remarks that Mr. Junmo, who once managed C and B ranks, has ended up in this situation. Shin bursts into loud laughter, expressing disbelief that Kang is now personally managing an F-rank hunter. Kang, feeling irritated, starts getting angry, but Sangwoo intervenes by placing a reassuring hand on Kang's shoulder to pacify him. Shin stops laughing and remarks that it appears the F-rank hunter has something to say. Sangwoo wears a smile and responds, saying, "No, I'm just really honored to meet the best guild master in all of Korea." Shin remarks that Sangwoo's wit doesn't seem to be at an F-rank level. Sangwoo clarifies that he's actually praising Shin, acknowledging him as the number 1 guild master in monopolizing dungeons, regulating hunting grounds, and achieving top settlement ratios in the country. The fact that the Haesong Guild Master is offering such praise leaves Sangwoo feeling unsure of how to respond. Expressing a sense of embarrassment, Shin acknowledges Sangwoo's compliment. Shin then tells Sangwoo that he has quite the audacity. With a cunning smile, Shin suggests they test whether Sangwoo's skills match up to his boldness. However, the flow of their conversation is interrupted as a man comes running toward President Shin. The man approaches Shin. In response, Shin exclaims, "Oh my, the interrupter is here." Shin then suggests they conclude their interaction for the day, saying, "Well then, let's stop here today." Shin asks for Sangwoo's name. Sangwoo suggests that Shin figure it out for himself. Shin, finding Sangwoo amusing, comments that he'll catch up with Sangwoo later, addressing Mr. Kang Junmo. As they leave, the man inquires about Shin's jumping within the association. Shin responds casually, saying, "Okay, okay." Later, Sangwoo and his clone are on their way back in Kang's car. Kang expresses gratitude to Sangwoo for his earlier action. Sangwoo explains that he couldn't just stand by and watch. Kang asks if Sangwoo is aware of Kang's relationship with the Haesong Guild. Sangwoo affirms his awareness and adds that he is not a fool. Sangwoo shares that after he signed with GM Agency, he decided to investigate. While searching on the internet, he didn't find much information, but he stumbled upon a rumor about Agent Kang Junmo. This rumor suggested that Kang had been expelled from the Haesong Guild for being a whistleblower. Kang acknowledges that this information has indeed circulated online and realizes why there has been a scarcity of new hunters. Sangwoo continues, mentioning that online comments strongly advise against joining JM Agency, cautioning that individuals would risk betrayal by Haesan. Kang asks Sangwoo why he still chose to join his agency. Sangwoo explains that it was primarily because of the agency's impressive settlement ratio. Kang, with a nervous laugh, acknowledges this. Sangwoo adds that he thought Kang could be trusted because Kang was someone who couldn't tolerate the industry's nonsense and had left the guild. Kang expresses gratitude. Meanwhile, in the gym, the #1 clone is engaged in workout, putting in a lot of effort. Observing his intense exercise routine, a girl whispers to another, expressing concern that the guy seems to be in a risky position. She wonders if he'll be okay. The trainer remarks that he tried talking to him, but he didn't heed the advice. As the clone continues his workout, he suddenly receives a notification instructing him to finish exercising, wash up, and be ready in front of the gym by 4. It's a message from Sangwoo. The clone takes a break to drink some water. The girl notices the clone leaving and comments that it seems like he's wrapping up his workout for the day. The trainer expresses relief at this. Inside the slime dungeon, there are individuals wearing masks and special outfits designed for dealing with slime. Sangwoo emerges from the dungeon and lets out a sigh. Kang inquires about his experience, asking how it was. Sangwoo comments on the discomfort, mentioning that the gas mask feels quite stifling. It's like breathing with 3 masks on. Kang says that's why even though the slime hunting grounds are safer, many hunters avoid coming here due to the discomfort. Sangwoo agrees, understanding the difficulty of enduring it for an extended period. Kang informs Sangwoo that he is allowed to hunt until the storage bins are full. Once they reach capacity, Sangwoo can replace them using the locker he rented in the dungeon. However, Kang acknowledges that no matter how much one tries to endure it, lasting more than 6 hours becomes increasingly difficult. Kang expresses uncertainty, suggesting that with good equipment and a quality mask, it might be more advantageous and helpful to endure the dungeon for a longer time. Sangwoo responds, expressing doubt about his own ability to last even 2 hours, let alone 6. However, Sangwoo considers the possibility for his clone, #2. He puts a mask on #2, along with gloves and a protective suit. As #2 heads toward the dungeon, Sangwoo encourages him, saying he's rooting for him. Turning to Kang, Sangwoo proposes moving to the next hunting ground, the one with horned rabbits. Kang agrees, addressing Sangwoo as Mr. Hunter. However, Sangwoo suddenly realizes that he forgot to bring #1 from the gym. #1 stands there, waiting. Kang's car screeches to a stop in front of clone #1. Sangwoo instructs #1 to hop in, and the clone complies. Kang asks Sangwoo whether he refers to his clones as #1 and #2. Sangwoo confirms this, explaining that since all the clones look identical, giving them creative names would only confuse him. #1, now wearing a mask and cap previously used by #2, sits in the car. Kang remarks that, being clones, they probably don't need individual names. Sangwoo agrees and adds that he heard people use guns to hunt horned rabbits. Kang confirms this, saying that's correct. Sangwoo then inquires about the need for specific equipment, wondering if he should prepare anything. Kang reassures Sangwoo that there's no need to worry about that. People can use their own equipment for hunting, or they can rent most of it from the hunting ground. However, Kang points out that renting is not free. He advises Sangwoo that eventually, he should have his own personal equipment. Kang explains that rented equipment is specific to the hunting ground, making it easier to retrieve after use. Suddenly, Sangwoo hears a noise and asks about it. Kang informs him that they have arrived at Ujangsan Field, where guards stand watch over the area. Sangwoo expresses amazement, remarking that the place is enormous. It's not even similar to the slime hunting ground. Kang agrees. This location is the renowned Ujangsan Field, where the monster break occurred. Sangwoo reflects on the term monster break and recalls having heard about it. Essentially, during a monster break, the portal disconnects from the outside world. As a result, most hunting activities take place inside the portal. However, in some cases, a monster comes through the portal, wrecks the surroundings, and establishes its place in the field. This occurrence is termed as a monster break. 5 years ago, during the last monster break, many high-class monsters were defeated. What remains now are mostly F and E-class monsters. This place is well regarded among hunters for its suitability as a hunting ground. Sangwoo asks whether there might be complaints about the noise. They decide to take an elevator, eventually reaching the weapons floor. Kang suggests that Sangwoo can conveniently rent the necessary equipment there, including rifles and night vision goggles. The rental package encompasses additional items such as earplugs and a substantial 400 rounds of bullets. The man informs Sangwoo that the total cost amounts to 700,000 won. Sangwoo expresses surprise at the seemingly high price. Kang elucidates that the major portion of the expense is attributed to the cost of the bullets. He emphasizes that this cost dynamic can be altered if Sangwoo manages to successfully hunt the horned rabbit. Kang explains to Sangwoo that the cost of acquiring one horned rabbit is equivalent to approximately 1 bucket of slime liquid. Following this, Kang provides Sangwoo with the information that their designated spot is on the 3rd floor of Building F. Sangwoo remarks on the segmentation of the area within the field. Upon reaching their designated floor, Kang points out that they have arrived. The atmosphere is filled with the loud sounds of gunfire as everyone engages in shooting. Some participants struggle to hit the rabbit accurately, while others successfully capture the rabbit and place it in their buckets. Kang guides Sangwoo to his seat, indicating that his seat is number 4. Curious about Sangwoo's shooting skills, Kang inquires if he is confident. Sangwoo responds confidently, asking Kang rhetorically who he thinks Sangwoo is. Sangwoo then shares with Kang that he missed only 3 bullets during the hunter license shooting test. Kang is confused when he finds out that Sangwoo missed many shots even though the target was very close. Sangwoo expresses regret for the horned rabbits but believes they can't escape his accurate Ujongsan eagle eye. However, when Sangwoo tries to shoot, the rabbit runs away. Even the agent leaves, telling Sangwoo to go ahead. Sangwoo doesn't make enough money to cover the cost of the bullets he used. He wonders if he should stop for the day and goes home to sleep, feeling that catching the horned rabbits was a complete failure. It's harder than he expected. Sangwoo hopes that number 1 can catch at least 1 horned rabbit. Then Sangwoo goes to sleep. Later, his phone chimes. In the morning around 4:30 a.m., he gets 46 unread messages from number 1. The next morning, Kang is in his office when his phone rings. Answering the call, he identifies himself as JM Agency. The caller inquires if this is the agency to which Hunter Jeong Sangwoo belongs. Sangwoo responds affirmatively. The person on the other end reveals themselves as the manager of the slime hunting ground and urgently requests Kang to come there and intervene to stop Sangwoo. Kang seeks clarification, asking the manager to explain the situation. The manager reveals that Sangwoo has been hunting for more than 24 hours and seems to be in an altered state of mind. This shocks Kang, and he assures the manager that he will make his way there as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Sangwoo wakes up and remarks that he had a good night's sleep. Then he checks his phone. Sangwoo notices messages from number 1 on his phone. He wonders if number 1 ran out of bullets. Puzzled, he questions why there are so many messages. Upon checking, Sangwoo is left stunned. Meanwhile, Kang arrives at the slime hunting ground and is taken aback by the sight of numerous containers filled with slime. He finds it hard to believe that number 2 managed to fill all these buckets in just one day. Witnessing the guards attempting to communicate with number 2, Kang realizes it's not the appropriate time for that. He decides to call Sangwoo. Sangwoo answers the call with a hello. Kang informs Sangwoo that he is at the slime hunting ground and reveals the news that Sangwoo's clone has filled all the storage bins within just a day. Kang informs Sangwoo that they are on the verge of calling the monster corpse cleaner. Kang asks Sangwoo to instruct number 2 to cease hunting. Sangwoo expresses his relief upon hearing this and, in turn, asks Kang if he can also send the cleaners to Ujongsan. Kang is puzzled and questions Sangwoo about it. Sangwoo explains that he believes the corpses are obstructing the way in that area. The onlookers are astonished by the overwhelming number of dead rabbits, unable to even count them. A man remarks that he thinks no one would notice if he takes just 1 rabbit. The observers marvel at the possibility that a single person could have caught all of these rabbits. Teen leader Kim from the Brown Bear Guild offers his card to the clone, introducing himself in the process. Kim inquires with the clone, asking if Sangwoo is currently a member of any guild. However, the clone remains silent. Kim reassures himself, deciding to be patient, as he acknowledges that many talented individuals tend to be a bit weird. Other guild representatives approach Kim, sharing that they too have attempted to engage in conversation with the clone, but to no avail. Kim notices that these representatives are from larger guilds. Kim remains confident that the hunter would have spoken a word or two. The other recruiters reiterate that the hunter, in this case, doesn't say anything. Sangwoo provides additional bullets to number 1, instructing the clone to continue hunting. He advises that if Agent Kang arrives, the clone should let him handle the disposal of the corpses. Number 1 agrees to these instructions. Sangwoo commends number 1, expressing that he did a good job. Number 1 responds by putting on his mask again and gripping the gun. Onlookers are surprised that the hunter has resumed hunting. A man suggests to another to stay quiet and observe how the hunter goes about catching rabbits. It appears that the hunter is about to start hunting once more. Meanwhile, Sangwoo reflects on how he may have underestimated the capabilities of clones. Currently, the clones are operating at 50% of the original stats. While one might think that his clones can only achieve half of what Sangwoo can do, Sangwoo acknowledges their machine-like capability to accomplish missions, their ability to make decisions without hesitation, and their remarkable concentration. The clones can do much more than what Sangwoo originally thought. Dokchul's daughter loudly calls out to Sangwoo to bring him back from his thoughts. Sangwoo responds asking, "What?" The daughter, who is also Sangwoo's student, inquires about what he's thinking. Sangwoo apologizes and mentions that he has finished checking her work. He acknowledges that the student has certainly performed better than the last time. The student asks if she did well, noting that she often heard she could succeed if she just tried. She asks Sangwoo what he was thinking about. Sangwoo explains that he had visited a hunting ground, and things went even better than he had anticipated, so he was reflecting on that experience. The student is surprised by this revelation. She asks Sangwoo if he's a hunter. Sangwoo is surprised and asks if he didn't mention it before. The student admits she had no idea. Curious, she inquires if Sangwoo knows about a particular hunter everyone was talking about that day. Sangwoo asks who it is. She shows him a photo on her phone screen, revealing the avatar of AIM, Ujongsan Eagle Eye. This revelation shocks Sangwoo. The student is surprised that Sangwoo wasn't aware. She explains that everyone was talking about this person on the Hunter Wiki that day. According to her, he had already hunted more than 200 rabbits at the time the video was recorded, setting an impressive record. The hunter didn't speak when people asked him questions, so everyone thinks he's cool and mysterious. That's why the news about him is popular now. Sangwoo wonders about Ujongsan Eagle Eye. Is that like a nickname? The student asks Sangwoo if he thinks the hunter is cool. She reveals that her dream is to become a hunter. Sangwoo is surprised and asks if her dream is to be a hunter. Then is she awakened? The student affirms this and mentions that she even got license. However, she admits being a bit scared to go to the hunting grounds. She then adds that if she does well on the test, could Sangwoo take her there just once? Sangwoo assures the student that it's not difficult to do that. He adds that if she successfully gets into the university, he will certainly take her there. Excitedly, the student asks Sangwoo if he's really serious. Sangwoo confirms and mentions that he also knows some safe hunting grounds. The student raises her pinky finger and asks Sangwoo to promise her. Sangwoo makes a pinky promise with her. The student emphasizes not to change his mind. Sangwoo agrees and tells her to continue with what she was doing. She can surely get into Gyeongguk University. The student says okay. Sangwoo exits his student's room, and her mother inquires about how the lesson went. Sangwoo reassures her, saying that it went well. Haeyeon's mother then asks if Haeyeon is doing well. Sangwoo responds, stating that he was initially concerned, but Haeyeon is very talented, so there's nothing to worry about. Haeyeon's mother expresses joy at hearing this, even if they might sound like just empty words. As Sangwoo is about to leave, he mentions seeing Haeyeon again on Monday. Confused, Haeyeon's mother asks what he said, suggesting that it's already late, and Sangwoo should eat before leaving. However, Sangwoo explains that he has somewhere else to be. Haeyeon, overhearing this, gets excited and jumps on her bed, noting that she has an appointment with him. After Sangwoo leaves, Haeyeon remarks that Sangwoo is a hunter. She credits this revelation for their successful conversation. Initially, Haeyeon wasn't too thrilled because Sangwoo was someone her dad knew. However, Sangwoo turned out to be kind and teaches her well. On top of that, Haeyeon thinks he's handsome. Haeyeon pushes these thoughts aside and reminds herself to focus on studying. Meanwhile, Sangwoo arrives at the rabbit horn field. He wonders if the corpse collection is already finished. Kang notices Sangwoo approaching. Sangwoo questions Kang, asking if he was also here. Kang affirms and explains that he needs to check on the progress of the collection. Kang asks where Sangwoo has been. Sangwoo informs Kang that he was working on a tutoring job. Kang shares that he has called for collecting teams in many hunting grounds before, but this is the first time he has summoned such a large number of corpse collecting teams for horned rabbits. A total of 352 people participated, and that's quite a large number. Kang asks Sangwoo if he checked the settlement he sent. Sangwoo, in turn, questions Kang if he already sent it. Sangwoo mentions he turned off the notifications, so he hasn't checked it yet. Sangwoo checks his bank balance and finds it to be 32,720,301, which surprises him. He asks Kang if it's really supposed to be this much. Kang explains that the hunting skills seem to exceed the F class, so he adjusted the settlement to 83%, which is typically used for E-class hunters. But Sangwoo points out that he's still not an E-class, so he thanks Kang for the adjustment. At that moment, another man approaches and asks Kang if he's the hunter's manager. Kang confirms and inquires about the man's identity. The man responds, asking Kang if he can't tell, and then reveals that he's a hunter whose prey was stolen. The man shares that all the horned rabbits he was trying to catch got taken by that hunter, so his hunting day is ruined. He believes the manager should take responsibility for this. This causes concern for the manager, who quietly tells Sangwoo that they might have chosen the wrong spot. Sangwoo expresses that he didn't know about such a person and wonders what to do in this situation. He suggests he has an idea. Kang asks what the plan is. The man interrupts, asking why they are whispering. He claims to have a conscience and suggests they settle for 10% of the total amount. Sangwoo bursts into laughter, surprising the man. The man questions why Sangwoo is laughing and if he thinks this is a joke. Sangwoo assures the man not to worry, mentioning that the hunter won't come to this place for a few days. He then urges Agent Kang to leave with him. However, the man shouts that he's not finished talking and demands to know where Sangwoo is going. Kang also asks Sangwoo where they are headed. Sangwoo suggests going to a nearby coffee shop, which infuriates the man. In a fit of anger, the man attempts to attack Sangwoo, urging him not to ignore him. In response, Sangwoo commands Number 1 to intervene. However, the man successfully hits Number 1, causing him to fly backward and bleed from his nose. Now frightened, the man insists that he didn't hit him that hard. Sangwoo records everything that happened and comments on how brutal it was. He emphasizes that committing violence in the sacred hunting ground is a severe matter. Kang also agrees. Feeling frightened, the man expresses his concern. Sangwoo points out that things could turn really bad if the video of the incident is uploaded to the Hunter web. To drive the point home, Sangwoo shows the video to the man and asks if he understands the potential consequences. Sangwoo suggests they leave, and the man, frustrated, clenches his teeth, expressing his frustration. Later on, Kang shares with Sangwoo that the hunter who caused trouble is a member of the Hysun Guild. Sangwoo is surprised, asking if there's someone like that among the Hysun Guild members. Kang explains that the guild is large, so it has all sorts of people. Sangwoo questions Kang about how he knew the troublemaker was from the Hysun Guild. Kang explains that from the moment he entered the hunting ground for collecting, the hunter had been keeping an eye on him. They speculate that this might be the Hysun Guild seeking revenge. Kang adds that the Hysun Guild might have done this, assuming Sangwoo's clone was another hunter under contract with JM Agency. Kang reveals that even before this incident, hunters taken by the JM Agency were mistreated. He admits it's embarrassing to say, but hunters from JM Agency don't stay for long. They often leave. Kang mentions that currently, only a few F-class hunters, including Sangwoo, remain. Even in the future, Kang admits he can't guarantee that there won't be more trouble from the Hysun Guild. Sangwoo tells Kang not to make him reconsider things. He reminds Kang that he was aware of the potential issues when he joined JM Agency, so Kang shouldn't worry. Kang agrees and Sangwoo assures him that he won't let those individuals from the Hysun Guild bully JM Agency. Sangwoo then shares that he has a plan to quickly become stronger and explains it to Kang. After laying out the plan, Sangwoo asks for Kang's thoughts. Kang confesses he hadn't considered it that way before. Looking ahead, Kang suggests meeting at 2 in the afternoon tomorrow, to which Sangwoo agrees. They decide on the location as the Hunter's Market. At the Hunter Market, transactions involving weapons, armor, and various hunting equipment were consistently bustling right from the start. However, a store resembling a departmental setup has recently made its presence felt in the Hunter Market industry, gradually dominating a significant portion of the market. Due to this development, they now boast an extensive collection of equipment that caters to every conceivable need a hunter might have. During this market encounter, a gentleman presents Sangwoo with a titanium-made armor, proudly asserting that it provides impeccable protection against E-class monsters. Kang turns to Sangwoo, seeking his opinion on the matter. After donning the titanium armor, Sangwoo expresses his satisfaction, affirming that it is indeed comfortable. This armor is really light, and Sangwoo likes it. After saying he likes it, he starts looking for a weapon. Sangwoo examines a knife and decides that he will get good at using guns, so he thinks the knife is good enough for now. Then Sangwoo asks the man if he can give him 2 more sets of the armor he is wearing. The man agrees and says okay. Next, Kang asks Sangwoo about the skills he mentioned needing. Sangwoo confirms that he did say he needs skills. Kang then clarifies that the skill Sangwoo is looking for is the familiar skill. Is that right? Sangwoo agrees and says yes, that's right. However, Sangwoo expresses uncertainty about finding those skills here. They enter a store, and Kang suggests looking inside. Sangwoo agrees, saying okay. They examine different globes, and Sangwoo spots what he's looking for. It's the familiar skill, allowing a hunter to share their senses and vision with their summons and pets. Checking the price, Sangwoo is taken aback. It's 129,890,000. Feeling a bit overwhelmed, he shares his concern with Kang. Sangwoo then suggests that it's time to strengthen their relationship. Kang, in response, asks if Sangwoo would like an advance payment. Sangwoo agrees, and Kang offers to lend him 50 million won right away. Grateful for the assistance, Sangwoo expresses his thanks and says rest he will handle in installments. He reassures Kang not to worry too much, explaining that if everything goes according to plan, they can quickly earn back the money. Sangwoo purchases the skill. When he gets home, he says, "Let's see," and starts reading the instructions. The instructions say to pour mana into the skill ball. If someone can't control mana, they should turn on the ball while keeping it in contact with their body. Sangwoo holds the remote and wonders, is this the on button? He takes hold of the ball and turns the button on. Suddenly, the ball bursts. Sangwoo receives a notification that the familiar skill has been created. Information about the skill is displayed in front of him. Sangwoo looks at his hands and realizes that the skill ball disappeared. He says, good, now the skill is ready. Sangwoo then asks number 1 and number 2 to come forward, and they do. Sangwoo says, good, and then tells them, let's go. Sangwoo remembers the idea he talked about with Kang to become stronger quickly. He asked Kang what he thought about the hunting results. Kang replied by asking what Sangwoo thought. Sangwoo said it went really well, even better than expected. Kang admitted he never expected such great results. Sangwoo agreed, noting that despite his clones having only half of the stats he possesses, like stamina, endurance, and reaction time, they've still managed to capture over 300 horned rabbits. He brought up a recent incident where he ordered his clone to intentionally get hit by a hunter's punch and react excessively. Sangwoo acknowledged that even though he instructed the clone, it's not easy to perfectly time and fearlessly push his face into the other person's fist. Sangwoo mentioned that he believes the clone could have beaten a hunter if it wanted to. Kang responded by saying Sangwoo is suggesting that even though the clone's stats are low, they have a better ability to control their bodies. Sangwoo confirmed this, saying yes, that's correct. He also added that he intends to use this advantage for himself. Kang asked for specifics on how Sangwoo plans to do that. Sangwoo explained that they need 2 places, a training ground for him to practice his long-range and short-range weapon skills, and a place to train the clones intensely to push their limits. Sangwoo's clone then goes to the training ground and requests an immediate spar with a pistol. The instructor explains that he needs to attack the stick to make the opponent drop it, just like in this situation. Even though he's a hunter, is he really going to spar right away? Another hunter engaged in clay shooting asks Sangwoo if he knows what clay hunting is. The instructor questions Sangwoo's choice of using a pistol instead of a shotgun, emphasizing that there's a reason shotguns are typically used. Sangwoo's clones confidently assure both instructors that he is sure about his choice. Despite the doubts, the instructor informs Sangwoo that the pistol he's holding is real, not a dummy used for practice. With everyone ready, the instructor announces the start. In one swift motion, the clone attacks the stick and breaks it, surprising everyone. Sangwoo then informed Kang that he needs a familiar skill. Kang got puzzled, asking if familiar skill is for sharing sight with a pet. He questioned Sangwoo about what he intends to do with that skill. Sangwoo explained that familiar skill isn't just for sight, but also for all the senses. He emphasized the importance of connecting not only sight but also smell, touch, and all sensations. Sangwoo asked to imagine if he uses his familiar skill while his clones spar or practice shooting. Activating his familiar skill, Sangwoo can experience everything: the distance during sparring, the angle of his joints, the balance of his body, the movements of the muscles, and the flow of strength. He can feel the breathing during shooting, the aiming and the direction of his sight, the recoil control of the gun, and all the other movements of his clones as a whole. Sangwoo can have access to all of these experiences. The experiences Sangwoo's clone just had are still with him. He can feel the pressure of the air when the baton missed him, smell the gunpowder, and sense the recoil force. Even the fatigue lingers on Sangwoo. However, Sangwoo himself didn't physically move. It was all carried out by his clones. Sangwoo simply shared those senses. Since Sangwoo is experiencing the movements of the clones who have the exact same body as him, it seems like he can mimic those movements right away. Excitedly, Sangwoo says, "Good." Today, he plans to try both sparring and shooting. Contemplating who to connect with first, Sangwoo decides to connect with number 1, the one who is sparring. He concentrates and Sangwoo's familiar skill activates. The person whom number 1 is sparring with looks really strong. The people watching are surprised and wonder if the coach is going to spar with Sangwoo today. They think it's okay since Seong Uk-hyung lost. Number 1 is sparring with the coach. The coach notices that this hunter's attacks lack experience, like he's not used to using batons, but the defense is different. The coach wonders if the hunter is reading his moves because the hunter perfectly dodges his movements. Number 1 attacks the coach with strength, and the coach blocks it. The coach notices that the attack was quite powerful. Number 1 quickly copied the coach's attack right away. After that, the coach attacks, and number 1 skillfully dodges the attack. Following this, number 1 counterattacks, causing the coach to step back. However, the coach quickly stands up again, leaving both Sangwoo and number 1 surprised. The onlookers start clapping, impressed by the coach's resilience. However, it was a close call. Sangwoo begins to feel pain in his wrist. The coach asks number 1 if he wants to continue. Number 1 remains silent. Sangwoo checks on number 1, asking if he's okay. Suddenly, number 1 jumps high up in the air, surprising everyone. Sangwoo then asks number 1 if he wants to continue. Number 1 lands back on the ground and tells the coach to give him one more chance, saying please. The coach agrees, saying, okay. Sangwoo takes a deep breath and says, good, deciding that he now has to go to number 2. Meanwhile, at the clay shooting ground, a person shoots a clay pot and excitedly asks his wife if she saw it. She replies that she did and compliments him, saying he was really cool. Sangwoo remains silent, choosing not to say anything. Sangwoo observes that number 2 is even shooting the clay objects of the person next to him. Sangwoo thinks, whatever, and decides to just focus on his own shooting. Nearby, a man asks the instructors to get him more clay pots, proudly wondering what if he gets the highest score like this. He starts laughing. The clay pot is in the air, and number 2 is aiming at it with a steady upper body. Without moving the body, number 2 only turns in the direction, following the path of the clay, and when the aim and the expected path match, it's time to shoot. It's important to remember all the little details. Sangwoo reminds himself that he needs to absorb everything that his clones are doing. Sangwoo deactivates his familiar skill, feeling a bit drained from switching between number 1 and number 2. Suddenly, Sangwoo's mana runs out, and he starts to feel dizzy. Realizing he needs a break, he sits on a bench and reflects on how the movements of the clones are incredibly impressive. They don't hesitate at all, and they don't seem to fear anything. So the clones move exactly as much as they need to. The next time, Sangwoo decides to join them. He wants to see what would happen if he tries it himself. While he's there, Haeyong passes by and notices Sangwoo. Sangwoo also sees her and asks what she's doing there so late in the evening. Haeyong explains that she was studying in the library. Sangwoo teasingly tells her she's lying without blinking an eye, but Haeyong insists she's telling the truth. She even finished her homework already. Some people from a bit far away start noticing Sangwoo and Haeyong. Their boss asks if that's the guy they were talking about, pointing at Sangwoo. Over the phone, the hunter who attacked Sangwoo is getting questioned by his boss. The boss asks the hunter if he just let Kang Junmo go. The hunter apologizes and explains that he only wanted to scare Kang Junmo a little, but it turns out someone recorded it. The boss asks in surprise, was the attack filmed? The hunter says he'll figure it out later. The boss tells the hunter to forget about it and not say anything. Just stay quiet. The boss warns the hunter not to go anywhere near the Ujangsan field. Even if something happens, the hunter is not connected to the Haesun Guild, and the boss wants to make sure the hunter understands that. The boss adds that it's just him, the street bully. After that, the boss ends the call. Filled with anger, the hunter throws his phone against the wall and curses at the boss. He then kicks and crushes his phone, questioning if the boss understands who he is dealing with. Suddenly, Jun arrives from behind the hunter and asks him what's going on. Why is the hunter so upset? Jun mentions it's been a while since he last saw the hunter. The hunter recognizes Jun as Jun Seok-hyung Nim. Jun smiles and inquires about what's wrong. The hunter proceeds to share everything with Jun. Jun asks if the hunter didn't do anything and just let Kang go. He mentions that he foresaw this happening when the hunter was so thrilled to join the #1 guild in the country. The hunter says sorry. After that, he asks Jun if there's still a job for him. The hunter explains that the guild warned him to stay away from the Ujongsan field. Jun remarks that this hunter is getting straight to the point. Jun then turns to Changwon and asks if there's anything available. Chang responds that he does have some part-time jobs. The hunter starts to say something but notices something and stops talking. He sees Sangwoo with Haeyeon. The hunter informs Jun that it's that person who recorded that video. Jun questions the hunter, asking if he's sure. The hunter asserts that he is pretty sure. Jun advises the hunter to calm down. He then looks at Sangwoo and asks the hunter if he is referring to him. Haeyeon asks Sangwoo what he's doing there, and Sangwoo responds that he's just exercising. Jun comes up to Sangwoo and mentions that he heard his brother owes something to Sangwoo. Haeyeon asks Sangwoo who these people are, and Sangwoo replies that he doesn't know. Then Sangwoo notices the hunter and summons his clones. Standing up, Sangwoo asks if he can help them. The hunter gets very angry and screams as if Sangwoo doesn't know, but Jun tells the hunter to wait a second. Jun explains that he heard Sangwoo has a video of his brother making a mistake out of excitement. He asks if that's true and tells Sangwoo to delete the video, promising they will leave peacefully. Sangwoo takes out his phone and asks if Jun means that he'll let Sangwoo go if he deletes the video. Jun confirms, saying he doesn't like tiresome work either. However, Sangwoo questions whether there's a guarantee that if he deletes the video, Jun will let him go. Jun reacts, saying Sangwoo is not stupid, and he won't let him go without consequences. Nevertheless, Jun points out that Sangwoo isn't smart enough to delete the video right after taking it, so he asks what difference it makes now. Sangwoo instructs Haeyeon to find the right time and run. He then tells Jun Thavel, of course, there is a difference. Sangwoo didn't expect to get into a difficult situation so soon, explaining that it's because he believes he can defeat them all. Jun starts laughing and remarks on Sangwoo's confidence. Jun's men attack Sangwoo, and Jun orders them to give Sangwoo a good beating. The hunter predicts that Sangwoo will beg him to let him erase the video after this. Sangwoo receives numerous punches and even gets kicked, leaving Haeyeon shocked. Eventually, Sangwoo falls to the ground, realizing that the first fight didn't go well. Haeyeon, seeing Sangwoo in trouble, activates her skill and instructs everyone to stand back. This surprises Sangwoo, who didn't expect Haeyeon to act this way. The hunter is also shocked and questions if she isn't awakened. Other hunters express frustration and Jun scolds his men, wondering why they are scared of a high school girl. Jun asks Haeyeon what she plans to do if they don't back off, questioning her about their approach. In response, Haeyeon screams, insisting that she told them not to come any closer. After that, she uses her energy to attack the hunters. Jun is hit with that force and gets sent backward, causing concern among his men. Jun tries to downplay the situation, stating that awakened individuals are more common than stones rolling on the streets. He advises Haeyeon not to brag about it and tells her to grow up since she's just a kid. Jun attempts to attack her, but Sangwoo steps in, declaring that it's not over yet and calling Jun bad words. Sangwoo then delivers a powerful punch to Jun, leaving Haeyeon shocked. This triggers memories for Darien. What he sees isn't another clone's stick. Sangwoo calculates, looking at the attacker's shoulder, he needs to move in advance to avoid that. A strike isn't just about swinging arms around. It involves legs, waist, and then the arm. Sangwoo realizes he can't avoid this one attack. The attacker is going to hit him. However, Sangwoo executes a double strike and takes a deep breath. Jun is surprised and asks if Sangwoo can fight. He admits he hesitated to beat someone who can't even swing their fist. Sangwoo still feels the pain from the last fight. Although Sangwoo managed to handle it back then, this opponent is much stronger. Sangwoo wonders if it's a muscle strength enhancement skill and resolves not to let Jun hit him. Jun charges at Sangwoo, announcing that he's coming. However, Sangwoo swiftly punches Jun in the face, causing him to bleed from the mouth. Aware that he needs to deal some serious damage, Sangwoo hits Jun's chin, causing significant harm. Jun curses Sangwoo, and Sangwoo becomes more determined. Jun's men express concern, and Jun warns Sangwoo that he's dead. Jun attempts another strike. Recognizing it as a significant move, Sangwoo knows he has to dodge it. The hunter grabs Sangwoo by his leg, leading Sangwoo to exclaim, "Damn it." Jun delivers a powerful punch to Sangwoo's stomach, causing him to collapse to the ground. Haeyeon screams no, and Sangwoo struggles to breathe and acknowledges that it's hard. Jun laughs and asks Sangwoo if he likes the situation. Sangwoo reminds himself to keep breathing, so he takes deep breaths. Jun, undeterred, approaches Sangwoo to deliver another punch. In that moment, Sangwoo believes it's over, but suddenly, Jun is attacked from behind and screams in pain. It's Haeyong. Jun's men express frustration and try to stop her, calling her a fool for not leaving. Someone kicks all these men. Jun is surprised and confused. Sangwoo, now able to breathe, expresses his gratitude to Jun for the real test. Jun, in anger, rushes towards Sangwoo, but he skillfully takes a backflip. Sangwoo seizes the opportunity and kicks Jun hard. Sangwoo sits there, taking deep breaths, while Jun lies on the ground with his teeth broken. All those men are lying on the ground, helpless. Sangwoo receives a notification that he has gained muscle strength, and his speed, stamina, and endurance have increased. Additionally, his clone skill has temporarily leveled up. Sangwoo starts laughing, stating that's what he gets. Meanwhile, Haeyong is chasing the clones who run towards Sangwoo. Sangwoo asks Haeyong why she didn't run away while she had the time. Haeyong responds that she doesn't think that's what Sangwoo wants to say. Sangwoo acknowledges that it's true, but it was still dangerous. Haeyong mentions she was really surprised. She adds that she can't believe the famous rookie hunter Sangwoo has a clone. Sangwoo asks her not to go around telling people about it. Haeyong wonders why. Does Sangwoo not want to be famous? Sangwoo explains that it could happen again, and it's dangerous. Haeyong assures him she understands and will keep her mouth shut. They then arrive at Haeyong's home. Sangwoo asks Haeyong if her hand is okay, and if she can hold a pen with it. Haeyong replies that it's her left hand, and it's okay. She then questions Sangwoo about reducing the homework if his student is hurt that much. Sangwoo counters, asking her if she didn't finish everything in the library. Haeyong remarks that Sangwoo only has a good memory at times like this. After that, Sangwoo expresses gratitude to Haeyong. He tells her that he believes he was able to win because Haeyong blocked Jun. Haeyong agrees, saying she played an important role. Then she suggests that they should thank each other while eating some meat instead of on an empty stomach like this. Sangwoo agrees, saying he will buy her some meat. Haeyong confirms that it's a promise. Haeyong decides to go inside, and Sangwoo assures her that he will make sure she eats a lot of meat. Sangwoo then goes on his own way, looking back at his clones and questioning why they are following him. He reminds them that they have to keep working hard. The clones explain that it's late, so all the shooting ranges are closed. Sangwoo hands them 2 sticks and tells them they can practice in the park. We hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel and like this video for more fun manhwa recaps.